What will the Philippines be like in 2030? The Philippines has always been a dynamic country. From its pre-colonial glory as a major trading hub between East and West to its struggle for independence, against the Spanish and American colonizers, and from being one of the poorest countries in Asia, to being recognized as one of the fastest-growing economies today, this Southeast Asian nation has seen it all. With its recent election of a new president, coupled with other factors such as increasing internet penetration rates, and more young adults staying in education longer than previous generations, the future of the Philippines is looking bright. Let's take a look at what the country might be like in 2030. Number 1. A transformative infrastructure and employment boom. The Philippines is currently undergoing a $160 billion infrastructure boom, which is predicted to create up to 11.5 million new jobs by 2030. This massive investment in infrastructure is set to transform many aspects of life in the Philippines, from trade to tourism, healthcare, and education. The Philippines has one of the busiest ports in Southeast Asia, with over 50 million tons of goods passing through it each year. In order to keep up with this demand, the country is investing in a new $9 billion port in Batangas City. The New Manila International Container Terminal is expected to double the country's capacity, and will also be used as a tool to help boost tourism and increase exports. Number 2. An emerging education superpower. The Philippines' demographic is currently one of the youngest in the world, with the average Filipino aged just 30. This, coupled with an increasingly connected population, high smartphone penetration rates, and a growing interest in online education, makes the Philippines a perfect breeding ground for an education revolution. The country is currently undergoing a rapid shift from traditional brick-and-mortar schools to online learning. In fact, recent statistics show that the number of students enrolled in online education has increased by a staggering 900% since 2011. When combined with the fact that the Philippines has one of the lowest youth literacy rates in Asia, this shift towards online learning becomes even more significant. With the help of companies such as StudySoup and Cool Kid, which are currently working with schools to digitize their education systems, the country is well on its way to becoming a true education superpower. Number 3. A secure and resilient smart nation. The Philippines is currently ranked as having one of the lowest internet penetrations in the world, but times are changing. Thanks to a government initiative that has been going on since 2016, which aims to bring internet access to 2.3 million Filipino households, the country is expected to see a boom in internet and smartphone penetration rates. By 2030, it's projected that 97% of households will have internet access, up from the current rate of 20%. The majority of Filipinos are expected to be using smartphones as their primary means of accessing the internet. This increase in internet penetration rates is expected to bring a range of benefits to the Philippines. These include an increase in e-commerce, more people accessing educational resources, and an overall increase in wealth and productivity. Number 4. A more comfortable life for most Filipinos. One of the most important aspects of measuring how well a country is doing is taking a look at its citizens' quality of life. In this regard, the Philippines has seen a major improvement in recent years. When assessing the country's Human Development Index, which measures a range of factors, including life expectancy and literacy rates, the Philippines scored 0.819, placing it in the very high human development category. This is an increase from 0.732, which was the score the country had in 2010. This increase is largely due to this past administration's investment in healthcare and education for lower-income families, which has resulted in a significant drop in child mortality and an increase in school enrollment rates. Number 5. More jobs and more opportunities for the young. With the Philippines expected to see a major rise in employment over the next decade, there's a great chance that the youth of today will be in the workforce in 2030. By 2030, it's predicted that 78% of Filipinos will be part of the labor force, up from the current rate of 71%. In addition, the country is expected to see a 9% increase in people employed in managerial positions and a 14% increase in women who are active in the workforce. These statistics show that there's a good chance that members of the millennial generation, who are currently in their teens and early 20s, will be able to enter the workforce during the 2030s. Number 6. Philippines becomes a digital leader. While the Philippines has certainly made significant strides towards becoming a digital leader, there's still a lot of room for improvement. With only about 20% of the population currently using the internet, there are still many people, especially in rural areas, who don't have internet access. Current figures show that the Philippines is ranked 89th in the world when it comes to internet speed, being outperformed by countries such as Japan, New Zealand, and the USA. While it's likely that the Philippines will never be recognized for having the fastest internet connection in the world, there are still many things that can be done to improve the situation. In order to boost internet speed, the government could make greater investments in infrastructure, and there are companies that are currently working to increase internet coverage in rural areas. Number 7. Greater cultural recognition and preservation. The Philippines is an incredibly diverse nation, with around 101 different indigenous cultures and a population made up of around 95% Christians and Muslims and 4% Buddhists and Hindus. Since the advent of social media, many of these ethnic groups have been working to preserve and promote their cultures through platforms like Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram. There are also a number of organizations and foundations, such as the National Commission for Culture and the Arts, that are dedicated to preserving and promoting the rich culture of the Philippines. With the continued rise of social media, it's expected that the effort to recognize and preserve the different cultures of the Philippines will only grow. Number 8. Greater female participation in the workforce. The Philippines currently has one of the lowest rates of female participation in the workforce, 55.4%, but there's still time for this to change. In fact, there are many signs that suggest this could happen soon. For example, 74% of women in the Philippines are currently completing their education, and 80% of them are interested in pursuing a career. With more STEM-based education programs and companies, such as Intel and Microsoft, investing in the country, and with the Philippines having a favorable business climate, there's a good chance that more women will join the workforce. Number 9. An English-speaking nation. English is currently the most widely spoken language in the Philippines, but it's not the national language. While Spanish was once the official language of the Philippines, it was replaced by English in 1937. Since then, there have been efforts to make English the official language. With the rise of social media, the internet, and it's likely that these efforts will increase. That said, the Philippines will only become an English-speaking nation if the government decides to make the change. Number 10. More women in leadership roles. The Philippines currently has one of the lowest rates of female representation in government, with only 19% of seats in the House of Representatives held by women. This, however, doesn't mean that Filipino women don't want to be in leadership roles. In fact, there are many women who have expressed interest in running for office. There are also a number of organizations, such as Emerge PH and Pamite PH, that aim to give women the tools and resources they need to become leaders. With the rise of social media, greater use of AI, and an increasingly connected and engaged population, it's likely that we'll see a rise in women in leadership roles in the Philippines. Conclusion. The Philippines has a lot going for it. It's a relatively stable democracy with a growing economy, and it's also one of the most connected countries in Southeast Asia. There's a lot of potentials for the Philippines to become a digital leader in the region, but it will require a lot of work. There are certainly challenges that the Philippine government and private companies will have to overcome. Finally, have you ever wished of traveling the world and make money at the same time? Without ever creating your own products or websites? Then let me show you how you can start making $100 to $200 a day. And how you can get started right now. Click the link below for more info. If you like this type of video, please like, share it with your friends and subscribe to our channel. That way you won't miss any of our future videos. Thank you.